The crystalline halls of the Council of Stars stretched endlessly into the void, their translucent walls reflecting the light of 1,000 distant suns. Ambassador Kethvar of the Zilonian Empire adjusted his ceremonial robes as he glided toward the central chamber, his four arms moving in practiced harmony. Today's session would be different. Today, they would finally address the growing concern that had been whispered about in diplomatic circles for months: humanity. The great amphitheater buzzed with alien voices speaking in dozens of languages, their words automatically translated by the neural implants each council member wore. Representatives from over 300 civilizations had gathered, their forms ranging from the gaseous ethereals floating in containment suits to the massive stone-like Gorons who required specialized seating. High Chancellor Vexthera, a towering insectoid being with prismatic wings, called the assembly to order with a harmonic chime that resonated through every being present. Her compound eyes swept across the gathered delegates as silence fell like a heavy blanket. Esteemed members of the council, her voice carried the weight of authority built over millennia. We gather today to discuss a matter of utmost urgency. The species known as humans have begun to spread beyond their home system. Our long-range scouts report they have established colonies on 17 worlds and show no signs of slowing their expansion. A ripple of concern passed through the assembly. The Vorthak delegate, his tentacles writhing with agitation, spoke first. High Chancellor, we have observed these humans for barely 2 of their centuries since they achieved spaceflight. In that time, they have shown remarkable aggression and adaptability. They remind us of. He paused, his voice dropping to barely a whisper, the destroyers of old. Murmurs erupted throughout the chamber. The destroyers were legend now, a cautionary tale told to young civilizations about a species so violent and unpredictable that they had consumed entire star systems before finally destroying themselves. No civilization had dared repeat their mistakes. Ambassador Kethvar rose from his seat, his voice steady but concerned. With respect, High Chancellor, I have studied the human archives extensively. While they do show tendencies toward conflict, they also demonstrate remarkable capacity for cooperation and growth. Perhaps we should attempt formal contact before making any drastic decisions. Contact? The ethereal representative's voice hissed through their translation device. They barely achieved interstellar travel and, already they fight amongst themselves over resources while simultaneously expanding outward. What happens when they encounter other species? When they decide our worlds would better serve their purposes? High Chancellor Vexthera raised one of her 4 arms, calling for order. The question before us is not whether humans are currently a threat, but whether they will become one. Our projections show that at their current rate of expansion and population growth, they will encounter other civilizations within 50 of their years. We have seen what happens when young, aggressive species make contact with established civilizations. The holographic display in the center of the chamber activated, showing a detailed analysis of human expansion patterns. Red vectors indicated projected growth, while yellow zones marked potential conflict areas with established civilizations. The Tauri Accords are clear, continued the High Chancellor. When a species shows clear signs of becoming a galactic threat, the Council has the authority to take preventive action. We have used this authority only twice in our recorded history, both times to preserve the greater good of the galaxy. A new voice echoed through the chamber, cold and mechanical. The Synthetic Collective's representative, a being of pure artificial intelligence housed in a humanoid shell, rarely spoke in council sessions. When it did, others listened. Analysis of human behavior patterns reveals 97.3% probability of aggressive expansion within predicted timeframe. Historical data suggests that early intervention produces optimal outcomes for galactic stability. Recommendation: implement containment protocol with surgical precision. The weight of those words settled heavily on the assembly. Containment protocol was a euphemism they all understood. It meant the elimination of a species' ability to spread beyond their home system, usually through the destruction of their spacefaring capabilities and infrastructure. Ambassador Kethvar felt his heart racing. Surely there are alternatives. We could establish contact, share technology, guide them toward peaceful expansion. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us. The galaxy was vast enough for the Kythera as well, replied the Goran representative, his voice rumbling like an avalanche. Until they decided it wasn't. Whole sectors still bear the scars of their expansion wars. We learned from that mistake. High Chancellor Vextheraw's wings shimmered as she considered the arguments. The historical precedent was clear, but something about the humans intrigued her. Their art, their music, their literature that had been intercepted showed a species capable of great beauty alongside their capacity for destruction. Before we proceed with any drastic measures, she announced, I propose we conduct a field study. We will observe a representative sample of human behavior in a controlled environment. If they demonstrate the aggressive tendencies our models predict, we will act. If not, we will reconsider our approach. The chamber erupted in discussion. The idea of actively testing another species was controversial, bordering on unethical by many species standards. Yet it was preferable to immediate action based solely on projections. What kind of test? Asked the Zolonian Trade Minister, her voice tight with concern. We will create a scenario where humans encounter another sapient species for the first time. Their response will tell us everything we need to know about their true nature. The Psychological Warfare Division has already prepared several scenarios. The vote was called, and the results were closer than anyone had expected. By a margin of only 37 votes, the Council approved the field study. Representatives began filing out of the chamber, many still debating the wisdom of their decision. In a smaller chamber reserved for high-ranking officials, High Chancellor Vexthera met with her inner circle. General Kaxnoth, the Council's military commander, spread holographic charts across the table. We have identified the perfect test subject, he announced, his scaled hide reflecting the blue light of the displays. A human exploration vessel called the Endeavour has recently entered the Kepler 442 system. They have established a small research outpost on the fourth planet. The crew consists of 12 individuals, including one of their young. A youngling? The High Chancellor's antennae twitched with interest. How young? 8 of their solar years. The offspring of the mission commander. They brought the young one along as part of their cultural practice of family units. Admiral Zethkora, the fleet commander, leaned forward. This could work to our advantage. Young creatures often reveal the true nature of their species when threatened. If humans are as protective and aggressive as our models suggest, threatening their young will provoke their most honest response. The plan began to take shape over the following hours. They would send a small fleet to the Kepler 442 system under the guise of establishing first contact. The human response to various stimuli would be carefully monitored and recorded. If they showed appropriate deference and peaceful intentions, contact would be established and the Council would reconsider its position. If they proved aggressive or threatening, the outpost would be eliminated as a message to the rest of humanity that the galaxy had rules, and those rules would be enforced. 3 days later, the Council fleet departed from the staging area near the Vega system. 5 ships in total, each representing a different member species of the Council. Their mission was classified at the highest levels, known only to the inner circle and the crews involved. As they entered hyperspace, heading toward the distant human outpost, none of them suspected that they were about to encounter something unprecedented in galactic history. They had studied human military capabilities, their technology, their population centers. But they had failed to account for one crucial factor. They had never seen a human parent fight for their child. The Endeavour research station orbited peacefully around Kepler 442d, its solar panels gleaming in the light of the distant star. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck, watching her 8-year-old daughter Emma through the transparent aluminum viewing port. The girl was in the station's small hydroponics bay, carefully tending to the earth plants they were trying to cultivate in the alien soil. Sarah smiled as Emma's voice drifted through the intercom, the child chattering excitedly about the way the tomatoes were adapting to the different atmospheric composition. For all the girl's genius-level intellect, she still maintained the wonder and enthusiasm that made childhood so precious. Dr. Chen to the bridge, please, came the voice of Commander Marcus Webb over the station's communication system. We're detecting something interesting on the long-range sensors. Sarah took one last look at her daughter, who was now attempting to teach their botanical AI assistant about proper pruning techniques, and headed toward the command center. The station was small enough that the walk took less than 2 minutes, but those 2 minutes would be the last peaceful moments of her life for a very long time. The bridge was buzzing with activity when she arrived. Commander Webb stood at the central console, his weathered face creased with concentration as he studied the sensor readings. Lieutenant Rodriguez worked frantically at her station, trying to clean up the signal. "What do we have, Marcus?" Sarah asked, moving to stand beside the commander. "Multiple vessels, approaching from the outer system. The energy signatures are like nothing in our databases. Definitely artificial, definitely advanced." He paused, meeting her eyes. "Sarah, I think we're about to make first contact." The implications hit her immediately. First contact protocols required immediate notification of Earth, full documentation of all proceedings, and extreme caution. But the nearest Earth vessel was 3 months away, and their quantum communication array could only send messages, not receive real-time responses. "How long until they reach us?" she asked. "At their current velocity, approximately 6 hours. Sarah, their ships are big. Much bigger than anything we could have built. If their intentions are hostile." She understood. The Endeavour was a research station, not a warship. Their only armaments were mining lasers and a small defensive shield that was designed to protect against debris, not weapons. "We follow protocol," she said firmly. "We transmit a peaceful greeting on all standard frequencies. We document everything. And we prepare for evacuation if necessary." What she didn't say, but both of them understood, was that evacuation might not be possible. Their shuttle could only carry 8 people, and there were 12 crew members on the station. Someone would have to stay behind. As the alien ships grew closer, their true size became apparent. Each vessel was easily 10 times larger than the Endeavour, their hulls gleaming with an otherworldly beauty that spoke of technologies far beyond human understanding. Sarah returned to the hydroponics bay where Emma continued working with the plants, blissfully unaware that everything was about to change. She watched her daughter for a moment, memorizing every detail of the child's face, every gesture, every word. She had no way of knowing that the approaching ships carried representatives who had already decided humanity's fate. She had no way of knowing that her daughter had been specifically chosen as a test subject. All she knew was that in 6 hours, her family would face the unknown. And, unknown to both Sarah and the approaching Council fleet, that encounter would change the course of galactic history forever. The Council fleet dropped out of hyperspace with the kind of precision that only came from millennia of spacefaring experience. General Kaxnoth observed the human station through the viewports of his flagship, the Retribution's Edge, noting the primitive but functional design of their outpost. "Begin long-range scans," he ordered his tactical officer. "I want detailed analysis of their defensive capabilities, crew complement, and technological level." The data flowed across his screens within minutes. The human station was exactly what their intelligence had suggested, a small research outpost with minimal defensive capabilities. 12 life signs detected, including one that registered as significantly smaller than the others. "The Youngling." "Sir," his communications officer announced, "we're receiving a transmission from the human station. It appears to be some kind of greeting." General Kaxnoth's scaled lips curved into what might have been a smile on a less predatory face. "Play it." The voice that filled the bridge was distinctly human, carrying an odd mixture of excitement and apprehension. "Unknown vessels, this is Commander Marcus Webb of the United Earth Research Station Endeavour. We come in peace and extend greetings to you as fellow travelers among the stars. We would welcome the opportunity for peaceful contact between our species." "How wonderfully naive," muttered Admiral Zethkora from her position at the tactical station. "They assume we're here for pleasantries." General Kaxnoth raised a clawed hand for silence. The test was about to begin, and every detail needed to be recorded for the Council's review. "Open a channel. Let's see how they respond to authority." The communication array crackled to life, and when General Kaxnoth spoke, his words were automatically translated into the primitive human language. "Human vessel, you are in violation of Galactic Territory Statute 847 Alpha. This system has been claimed by the Council of Stars. You will prepare to be boarded for processing." On the bridge of the Endeavour, the alien voice sent chills down Commander Webb's spine. The tone was cold, bureaucratic, and carried an unmistakable threat. Sarah Chen, who had returned to the bridge when the ships arrived, felt her blood freeze as the implications sank in. Processing? Webb whispered, then activated the communications. Council representatives, we were not aware this system was claimed. We are peaceful researchers studying the habitability of this world. We would be happy to negotiate a settlement or relocate if necessary. The response came back almost immediately, and the coldness in the alien voice had intensified. Humans do not negotiate. Humans comply. Prepare for boarding. Resistance will result in the elimination of your facility. Sarah's mind raced. Emma was still in the hydroponics bay, completely unaware of what was happening. The rest of the crew was scattered throughout the station, going about their daily routines. They had maybe an hour before the alien ships reached boarding distance. Marcus, she whispered, we need to get Emma to the shuttle. He nodded grimly. Rodriguez, start emergency evacuation protocols. Quiet alarm only. I don't want to panic anyone. The next hour passed in a blur of desperate preparation. The crew worked with the efficiency born of countless emergency drills, but everyone understood that this was different. This was real, and their options were limited. Dr. James Murphy, the station's chief engineer, approached Commander Webb with a grim expression. Sir, I've been running calculations on the shuttle's capacity. With emergency life support modifications, I can maybe get 10 people aboard safely. That still leaves 2 of us behind. Webb's jaw tightened. Then, we need volunteers. I'll stay, Sarah said immediately. I'm not leaving Emma, and someone needs to maintain communications with Earth. They need to know what happened here. Sarah, no, Webb started, but she cut him off. It's not negotiable, Marcus. My daughter gets on that shuttle, and I stay to make sure she's safe until the very last moment. Dr. Murphy nodded slowly. I'll stay too. Someone needs to operate the station's systems, and maybe I can buy you some time if things go badly. As they spoke, the alien ships moved closer. On the flagship, General Kaxnoth reviewed the final preparations for their test. Everything had to appear authentic while still being controlled enough to gather the data they needed. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the humans appear to be preparing some kind of evacuation. One of their small craft is showing signs of activation. Perfect, General Kaxnoth replied. Let them think they can escape. We'll intercept their shuttle once we have them away from the station. The real test begins when they realize there's no escape. The alien ships reached the station exactly on schedule. Docking tubes extended from the lead vessel, seeking connection points on the human outpost. Sarah watched from the bridge as the massive ships maneuvered with impossible grace, their hulls gleaming with technologies that humanity could barely imagine. Emma's on the shuttle, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. Dr. Peterson and 7 others are with her. They're ready for launch on your command. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, thinking of her daughter's face when she realized her mother wasn't coming with them. Launch the shuttle. Get them as far away as possible. The small human vessel detached from the station and began accelerating away from the alien fleet. On the bridge of the Retribution's edge, General Kaxnoth watched with interest. Should we intercept, sir? Asked his pilot. Not yet. Let's see what the parents do when they realize their young is in danger. The shuttle had traveled barely 1,000,000 kilometers when the trap was sprung. 3 of the Council ships broke formation and moved to intercept, their faster-than-light drives allowing them to overtake the human vessel in minutes. Dr. Peterson, piloting the shuttle, watched in horror as the alien ships surrounded them. Endeavor, this is Shuttle 1. We're being intercepted. They've got us surrounded. Sarah's voice came back over the communications, steady despite the terror she felt. Shuttle 1, follow their instructions. Do not resist. Protect the children at all costs. On the station, the aliens had completed their boarding procedure. Sarah and the remaining crew found themselves facing beings that looked like they had stepped out of humanity's worst nightmares. General Kaxnoth stood nearly 3 meters tall, his scales glistening under the station's lighting. Behind him, a collection of alien species formed an intimidating presence that filled the station's small corridor. Dr. Sarah Chen, General Kaxnoth spoke her name with careful pronunciation. You are the genetic progenitor of the young human aboard the intercepted vessel. Sarah's heart pounded, but she kept her voice level. Yes. She's my daughter. If you want something from humanity, I'm willing to discuss terms. Just let the children go. Terms? The alien general's voice carried what might have been amusement. You misunderstand your situation, Dr. Chen. This is not a negotiation. This is a test. Admiral Zethkora stepped forward, her multiple arms gesturing toward the viewports where the captured shuttle was visible in the distance. Your species has been evaluated by the Council of Stars and found to be potentially dangerous to galactic civilization. Your response to our actions here will determine whether humanity is allowed to continue its expansion into space. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. You're testing us? You've put children in danger just to test us? The young often reveal the true nature of a species, General Kaxnoth replied coldly. Your reaction to threat against your offspring will tell us everything we need to know about human character. Commander Webb stepped forward, his face flushed with anger. Those are innocent children. Whatever you think you're accomplishing, you're wrong. This isn't how civilized beings conduct first contact. Civilized? Admiral Zethkora's laugh was like breaking glass. Humans speak of civilization while their homeworld still hosts dozens of active conflicts. Your species hasn't had a year without warfare in your recorded history. Dr. Murphy, who had been silent until now, spoke up. We're trying to be better. That's why we're out here, exploring, learning, growing beyond our world's problems. Growing, yes, General Kaxnoth agreed. Growing and spreading and taking resources that other species might need. Your expansion patterns show remarkable similarities to previous species that the Council was forced to contain. Sarah felt cold understanding wash over her. You've done this before. You've destroyed other species. We've preserved galactic peace, Admiral Zethkora corrected. Sometimes preservation requires difficult decisions. The Kythera refused to limit their expansion. The Vorthgon insisted they had the right to claim any world they could reach. Both species are now extinct, and the galaxy is safer for their absence. The threat was clear and unmistakable. Humanity was being evaluated for extinction, and their response to this provocation would determine their species' fate. What exactly do you want from us? Sarah asked, though she already feared the answer. General Kaxnoth gestured toward the captured shuttle. We want to see what humans do when they're young or threatened. Do you become reasonable and cooperative? Do you accept the reality of your situation? Or do you become dangerous and unpredictable? As if on cue, his communications officer spoke up. Sir, we're receiving multiple transmissions from the human homeworld. It appears they've detected our presence here. Sarah's heart leaped. Earth knew something was wrong. Maybe there was still hope. Irrelevant, Admiral Zethkora dismissed. The nearest human military vessels are months away. This test will be concluded long before they could intervene. On the captured shuttle, Emma Chen sat strapped into her acceleration seat, trying very hard not to cry. The alien beings who had boarded their ship were frightening, but Dr. Peterson had told all the children to be brave and stay quiet. She could see her mother's research station through the small viewport, looking tiny and fragile next to the massive alien ships. Emma didn't understand what was happening, but she understood that her mother was in danger. She also understood, with the clarity that sometimes comes to children in crisis, that the adults around her were scared in a way she had never seen before. One of the alien guards, a being that looked like it was made of living crystal, approached her seat. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. You are the offspring of the research leader? Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. Your genetic progenitor's actions will determine your fate, young human. I suggest you hope she chooses wisely. Back on the station, Sarah stared at the alien general with growing understanding. The test wasn't just about humanity's response to first contact. It was about their response to the murder of innocents. The Council of Stars wasn't just evaluating humanity's expansion potential. They were deciding whether to commit genocide. How many other species have you tested like this? She asked quietly. 17, General Kaxnoth replied without hesitation. 14 failed. 3 passed and were granted limited expansion rights under Council supervision. And the ones who failed? Admiral Zethkora's smile was predatory. They are no longer a concern. Sarah looked out at the shuttle containing her daughter and felt something change inside her. The Council of Stars had made one crucial miscalculation. They had studied human military capabilities and expansion patterns. They had analyzed human history and technology. But they had never truly understood what happened when a human parent was told their child was going to die. You want to see how humans respond to threats against our young? Sarah's voice was steady, but something in her tone made the alien guard step closer. You're about to find out. The silence that followed Sarah's words was heavy with tension. General Kaxnoth studied the human female with new interest. Something in her demeanor had shifted, a subtle change that his predator instincts recognized as dangerous. Dr. Chen, he said carefully, I trust you understand the gravity of your situation. Your species' future depends on your next actions. Sarah nodded slowly, her eyes never leaving his. Oh, I understand perfectly. You've kidnapped children to force a reaction from their parents. You've threatened genocide against my entire species based on a test you designed. You've done this to 17 other civilizations. She paused, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. And you think that makes you the civilized ones? Admiral Zethkora stepped forward, her multiple arms spreading in what her species used as an intimidation display. Your emotional responses are noted, Dr. Chen. However, sentiment will not change the reality of your position. You have no weapons, no military support, and no means of resistance. The logical response is cooperation. Cooperation, Sarah repeated thoughtfully. With child murderers. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Commander Webb tensed, recognizing the tone in Sarah's voice. He had served with her for 3 years and had never seen her back down from anything, but this was different. This was personal. Dr. Murphy, Sarah said without taking her eyes off the alien general, how long would it take you to overload the station's fusion reactor? Dr. Murphy's eyes widened in shock. Sarah, what are you thinking? Answer the question, James. The engineer's voice was shaky as he replied, maybe 20 minutes if I bypassed all the safety protocols. But, Sarah, the explosion would destroy everything within a 50-kilometer radius. The shuttle is only 30 kilometers away. General Kaxnoth's scales rippled with what might have been concern. Dr. Chen, surely you're not contemplating suicide. That would accomplish nothing except the death of your offspring. Sarah's smile was cold and sharp. You're right about one thing, General. It would kill Emma. But it would also kill me, my crew, and every single one of you aboard this station. And when Earth receives our final transmission explaining what happened here, they'll know exactly what the Council of Stars is really like. The alien commander's confidence wavered slightly. This was not the response their psychological models had predicted. According to their analysis, humans should become either submissive when confronted with superior force, or aggressively defensive of their territory. Self-destructive martyrdom hadn't been factored into their calculations. You would kill your own child to spite us? Admiral Zethkora asked, genuine confusion in her voice. No, Sarah replied quietly. I would kill my own child to save my species. Because that's what you don't understand about humans, General. We're not just protective of our offspring. We're willing to sacrifice everything, including our offspring, to protect the future of humanity. Commander Webb stepped closer to Sarah, understanding dawning in his eyes. The quantum transmitter, he whispered. Exactly, Sarah nodded. A detailed record of everything that's happened here, broadcast on all frequencies, with specific details about the Council's test protocols and the fate of the other 14 species. Every human colony, every Earth government, every corporate fleet will know within days what the Council of Stars really is. General Kaxnoth felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries, uncertainty. The human's logic was flawless in its brutality. If she followed through with her threat, the Council's carefully maintained image as benevolent guardians of galactic peace would be shattered. Other species would learn that the Council eliminated civilizations based on arbitrary tests. "You're bluffing," Admiral Zethkora declared, but her voice lacked conviction. No parent would murder their own child. Sarah's laugh was bitter. "You really don't understand humans at all, do you? We've been murdering our own children for thousands of years when we thought it served a greater purpose. Religious sacrifices, military conscription, medical experiments. The only difference is that this time, we know exactly what we're dying for." She moved toward the engineering console, and several alien guards raised weapons in response. Sarah paused, looking back at General Kaxnoth. "Go ahead. Shoot me. But James here knows the reactor systems as well as I do. Kill him too, and Commander Webb will finish the job. You'll have to kill all of us, and my final transmission is already queued and waiting for a single command to broadcast." The standoff stretched into uncomfortable seconds. General Kaxnoth's mind raced through possibilities. They could potentially storm the engineering section and prevent the reactor overload, but not without casualties among his crew. They could retreat to their ships, but that would mean abandoning the test and returning to the Council empty-handed. Worse, the humans' threat about the transmission was credible. If word spread through human space about the Council's actions, it would inevitably reach other species. The carefully maintained balance of galactic politics could collapse into chaos. "What do you propose, Dr. Chen?" he asked finally. "Simple," Sarah replied. "Release the shuttle with all the children aboard. Provide them with safe passage back to human space. In exchange, I'll submit to whatever tests or procedures you want to conduct on the remaining crew." Admiral Zethkora's tentacles writhed with agitation. "That defeats the entire purpose of the test. We need to observe human response to threats against their offspring, not negotiate their release." "You want to observe human response?" Sarah's eyes blazed with fury. "You're looking at it. This is what humans do when you threaten our children. We don't surrender. We don't negotiate. We become something you've apparently never encountered before." "Which is?" General Kaxnoth asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "Unreasonable," Sarah said simply. "Completely, utterly, irrationally unreasonable. We'll burn down the galaxy before we let you harm our young." The alien general felt a chill run down his spine. In all his centuries of military service, he had encountered countless hostile species. Some fought fiercely for territory, others for resources, still others for ideology. But he had never faced an enemy that would choose mutual destruction over submission. "Dr. Chen," he said carefully, "perhaps we can reach an accommodation." "No accommodations," Sarah cut him off. "No negotiations. No tests. You release those children, you get in your ships, and you leave human space. Permanently. That's not possible. The Council's authority extends to all inhabited systems." Sarah's finger hovered over the engineering console. "Then, the Council's authority dies here." At that moment, Lieutenant Rodriguez spoke up from her communications station. "Commander, I'm receiving a transmission from Earth. Fleet Command wants to know our status." General Kaxnoth's tactical officer whispered urgently in his ear. "Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the system. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace." The viewport suddenly blazed with light as a dozen human warships materialized in the outer system. They were smaller than the Council vessels but moved with predatory grace as they formed up for attack. "This is Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Force," a new voice crackled over the communications. "Council vessels, you are in violation of human territorial space. Release our people and withdraw immediately, or we will consider your presence an act of war." Sarah's eyes widened in shock. "Admiral Chen? That's my brother." General Kaxnoth stared at the tactical display showing the approaching human fleet. "Your brother commands their military forces?" "Thomas was always the responsible one," Sarah replied with grim satisfaction. "He probably broke every hyperspace speed record getting here." The situation had completely spiraled beyond the Council's control. What should have been a simple evaluation had become a potential first contact war, with a human who was willing to commit suicide to protect her species, and a military response that suggested humanity was far more organized than their intelligence had indicated. Admiral Zethkora stepped closer to General Kaksnov. "Sir, we need to withdraw. This test is compromised." But the general was studying Sarah with newfound respect. "Dr. Chen, answer me honestly. If I release the children and withdraw my ships, will your species remain confined to your current territory?" Sarah considered the question seriously. "No. Humans will continue to expand, explore, and colonize. That's what we do. But we'll remember this encounter. We'll remember that there are species out there who consider genocide an acceptable diplomatic tool. And you'll prepare for war." "We'll prepare for survival," Sarah corrected. "Just like every other species in the galaxy should be doing, now that they know what the Council of Stars really is." General Kaksnov made his decision. "All ships, begin immediate withdrawal. Release the human shuttle and provide escort back to their military fleet." "Sir!" Admiral Zethkora protested. "The Council will demand an explanation." "The Council will get one," the general replied grimly. "They'll learn that humans are indeed dangerous. Not because they're aggressive or expansionist, but because they're willing to sacrifice everything to protect their future. That makes them the most dangerous species in the galaxy." As the Council ships began their withdrawal, Sarah finally allowed herself to breathe. Through the viewports, she could see the small shuttle moving toward the approaching human fleet, carrying her daughter to safety. Commander Webb approached her cautiously. "Sarah, did you really mean it? About the reactor?" She looked at him with eyes that had aged years in the past few hours. "Every word, Marcus. That's what they need to understand about humanity. We're not just another species looking for resources or territory. We're something new. Something they've never encountered before." "What's that?" "A species that chooses the future over the present, even when it costs us everything." The final Council ship departed the system 2 hours later. As they entered hyperspace, General Kaksnov composed his report to the High Chancellor. The humans had indeed failed their test, but not in the way the Council had expected. Humanity had revealed themselves to be utterly unreasonable, completely unpredictable, and absolutely unwilling to submit to authority when their survival was at stake. They would fight galaxy-spanning wars before they would accept limits on their expansion. Worse, they had demonstrated a disturbing willingness to sacrifice themselves and their children rather than surrender to superior force. That level of commitment was unprecedented in galactic civilization. But, perhaps most dangerous of all, they had shown the ability to inspire loyalty and rapid military response across interstellar distances. Admiral Chen's fleet had arrived far faster than should have been possible, suggesting that humanity possessed either better technology than suspected or better coordination than their fragmented political structure suggested. The report concluded with a single recommendation: humanity should be left alone. Not because they posed no threat, but because the cost of containing them would likely exceed the benefits. The Council of Stars had always succeeded through the application of superior force against divided enemies. Humans appeared to be neither inferior nor divided. When the report reached the Council of Stars 3 days later, it caused an uproar that lasted for months. Some representatives demanded immediate military action against humanity before they could spread further. Others argued for attempted integration and cooperation. In the end, High Chancellor Vexthera made the decision that would shape galactic politics for centuries to come. Humanity would be granted provisional membership in the galactic community, with restricted expansion rights and mandatory observers. But, privately, she issued classified orders to all Council military commanders: human space was to be avoided unless absolutely necessary. Humanity was to be treated as a potential ally, not a vassal species. Because the Council of Stars had learned something important about the nature of civilization. Sometimes, the greatest threat to peace wasn't conquest or aggression. Sometimes, it was the simple refusal to surrender. Back in the Kepler 442 system, The Endeavour research station continued its work under heavy guard from the Earth Defense Force. Dr. Sarah Chen returned to her research, but now her studies included xenobiology and galactic politics as well as planetary science. Emma Chen, now 9 years old, had become something of a celebrity throughout human space as the child whose kidnapping had sparked the first interstellar crisis. She handled the attention with remarkable grace for someone so young, though she often asked her mother difficult questions about why the aliens had been so cruel. Sarah's answers were always honest. Some beings in the galaxy believed that might made right, that superior technology justified any action, and that other species existed only at their sufferance. But humans would prove them wrong, one act of defiance at a time. The galaxy had issued humanity a warning disguised as a test. They had learned, too late, that humans were remarkably poor at following warnings. In the vast expanse of space, dozens of human ships continued their expansion into the unknown, carrying with them the knowledge that they were not alone, they were not welcome, but they were also not afraid. The Council of Stars had wanted to know what humans would do when threatened with extinction. They had received their answer, and the galaxy would never be the same.